Hello, folks. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for more tips on how to become a better presenter. I'm your host, Scott Rosen, and today we're going to give you the lowdown on how to best interpret someone's body language. These tips should enable you to read the cues someone is expressing and allow you to form an accurate opinion of their situation so that you don't blow your pitch when you're working directly with a decision maker. Body language has two sides, yours and theirs. It's a heavily studied science which has a direct impact on how people perceive one another. It sets hierarchies, and if you apply it properly, it can turn the tables towards a more successful outcome. One last thing, these are tips which we teach our salespeople when they're pitching their ideas or asking for resources. And while it's always nice to have a sales or a marketing background, you don't have to come from Wall Street to apply these skills. It's our opinion that anyone can learn how to read body language and use it to their advantage when becoming a better leader. That being said, let's get started. Most people fall into one of three categories with regard to body language: lookers, listeners, and empaths. Each personality will offer their own cues towards which type you may be dealing with. And when you first start applying this knowledge, it should take you about 2.5 minutes to form an educated opinion on what type of person you're dealing with. After that, you can adjust your own body language, your choice of words, and your interaction style to help best support the situation. With practice, you can get this down to under a minute or sometimes just through an initial encounter. For example, the 4 primary resources of information that we ourselves use when forming an opinion are how someone shakes their hands, where their eyes are when they greet us, their general appearance, and what they first say. This gives us a bulk of the information that we need to positively read their outgoing cues and react properly. A firm handshake that comes over the top can mean that someone has an outgoing or dominant personality. And when you mix that with a custom or a designer suit, leather-soled shoes, a large or expensive watch or timepiece, and the comment, "What have you got for me?" we can be almost certain that we're interacting with a looker. And we'll need to adjust our behavior to help build a more positive relationship with them. So how do you do that? Well, let's take a look. No pun intended. Lookers make up the bulk of the main personality types, with roughly 70% of the people in the Western world falling into this category. As you probably have already guessed, their outward appearance is important to them. They dress very well and do their best to keep up with the latest styles. They keep very heavy eye contact with whom they are speaking because they think in visual cues, and that's how they interact. This means that they remember things that they've seen and can recall them best through visual aids. If you're leading or if you're presenting to lookers, you should use more images than text in your presentation. Let them talk a little bit more and adjust your phrasing to include more visual sounding words or questions such as, "How does this look to you?" You'll have a better chance at building a relationship with them when using this sort of paradigm. Listeners comprise about 22% of the major personality types. We found that the main cue you can look forward to when dealing with a listener is how they tilt their head when they're interacting with you. You may also notice that their eye contact isn't as strong or it's dominating as it is with lookers. As it goes, they don't always stress keeping up their appearances, so they may choose to dress down a bit from their other colleagues. Now, this isn't always the case, but it is something to consider. When dealing with a listener, be careful with your eye contact and be ready to avert your eyes when they're speaking directly to you, sort of like taking turns. Speak a bit more slowly and choose your words a bit more carefully than you normally would because they're going to have a greater impact towards your interaction. Use open-ended questions such as, "How does this sound to you?" or something along those lines for a more positive engagement with a listener. Rounding out the list are the empaths. Now, these encounters are rare but very much worthwhile mentioning. They tend to think in feelings and have some of the sharpest minds that we ourselves have ever encountered. You'll know you're dealing with an empath from the get-go when they come in a little bit more close to you than normal when you greet them. They may even try to give you a hug. If you're not comfortable with this, that's perfectly fine. It's okay. Just be ready to extend your hand to shake theirs before they close in, and they'll get the hint. You may find that empaths dress for comfort, so look for loose clothing with very soft fabrics or textures. They tend to also use more pronounced facial expressions when they interact with you. So watch their eyebrows and take a look for a head tilt when they ask you a question. It may show genuine concern. To build rapport, use emotional words or questions. Simply asking them how they feel about a particular issue shows that you're willing to reach out to them, and it should give you an edge in your collaboration. Before we finish for today, we'd like to point out that there's an entire science behind this with decades of study to back it up. It's a field filled with intricacies and powerful psychology that deserves and holds our profound respect. If you'd like to know a little bit more about the field, or if you haven't already, please take a few moments to check out Lynn Franklin's TED Talk about reading people's minds through their own body language. Also, we definitely encourage you to check out Dr. Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about auditing your own body language. It's one of the best favors you'll ever do for yourself. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Help us out by giving us a like if you found the tips useful, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos on how to make a better presentation. Thank you very much for your support. We greatly appreciate it. If you have specific questions or ideas, let us know by email. Best of luck with your next project, and as always, we'll see you next time.